This is The Cut, American whiskey, daily. Heaven Hill just bet against itself. The distillery broke ground today on a new Bardstown Rickhouse campus. 6 warehouses, over 42,000 barrels of new capacity. The same quarter it cut its own new make production by 15%. Here's why that's not a contradiction, it's a strategy. I'm John from Chasing the Unicorn podcast. Here's what moved today, July 13th, 2026. Today's big move. A company pouring concrete for whiskey it hasn't sped up making yet. Here's what happened. Heaven Hill broke ground east of Bardstown on 6 new warehouses, adding about 42,000 barrels of aging capacity on an 18-month build. Normally you'd read that as a company betting big on growth. But this is the same distillery that just trimmed new make production at Bernheim by 15% this quarter. So they're building storage for whiskey they're not currently making at full speed. That's the tell. Company leadership says the timing is deliberate. Land and construction costs are still sitting below where they peaked in 2022 and 2023. So building now avoids paying inflated prices later, whenever the correction actually clears. The Kentucky Distillers Association says this fits a bigger pattern across the state this year. Producers investing in aging space even while new make volumes stay flat. Here's my read. Heaven Hill isn't betting the bourbon glut is a demand problem. They're betting it's a timing problem. And warehouse space built today doesn't become whiskey on a shelf for 8 to 12 years. So this groundbreaking is a quiet vote that people will still want aged bourbon well into the mid-2030s. Now, today's Rickhouse. Because it isn't just Heaven Hill making a capacity call this week. Beam Suntory confirmed a full restart timeline for its Claremont distillery, a phased ramp back to 92% of pre-pause capacity by the fourth quarter, with actual monthly targets attached, not a vague, later this year. That specificity matters. It's the clearest signal yet that a Big Four producer thinks the correction has run far enough to justify ramping back up, and distributor allocation letters for Booker's and Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve are expected to reference that ramp starting this fall. Meanwhile, Heaven Hill made a second move of its own, a new vice president of production role, freeing master distiller Connor O'Driscoll to focus on cooperage sourcing and barrel program strategy instead of day-to-day plant operations. Read those two Heaven Hill moves together, new warehouses going up and the master distiller getting freed up to think about barrel programs instead of the floor, and you've got a company organizing itself around a rebound it's confident is coming. Here's the thing about a rickhouse that a lot of people miss, and it's exactly why this week's construction news actually matters to your glass, not just the balance sheet. Every floor in one of these buildings ages whiskey differently. The top floor runs hot. It swings hard through Kentucky summers, and that pushes the whiskey aggressively in and out of the wood. The bottom floor stays cool and steady, aging slower and gentler. Same distillery, same recipe, same 10 years. A barrel from the top and a barrel from the bottom can taste like two different bourbons. So when Heaven Hill says 6 new warehouses, that's not just more barrels. That's 6 new sets of floors, each shaping the whiskey resting inside differently. Most bottles blend across floors specifically to smooth that variation into something consistent, batch after batch. Single barrel releases skip that step entirely, which is exactly why 2 single barrels of the same bourbon can genuinely surprise you. So here's what it is. Back to basics for a second. A rickhouse is just the warehouse where barrels age. In Kentucky, often 6 to 9 stories packed with tens of thousands of barrels stacked on wooden racks. The floor a barrel sits on is one of the biggest hidden variables in whiskey, and almost nobody outside the industry thinks about it. Next time a label tells you where in the warehouse a barrel came from, that's not marketing fluff. That's a real flavor decision, disclosed. What this changes, once you know that, a single barrel claim on a label means something. It's a promise that nobody smoothed the ride for you. If you've got the perfect pour app, log the warehouse floor whenever a bottle discloses it, top, middle, or ground, and start tracking whether your palate actually favors the bigger, bolder top floor pours or the gentler ones from lower down. It's available now at theperfectpourapp.com. Now, one thing worth acting on this week rather than someday. Ohio's Fall Rare Bourbon Lottery is taking pre-registration for William LaRue Weller right now, and that window closes Wednesday. It's free, no purchase required, and it's the one item in today's hunt that has an actual deadline attached instead of a maybe. Weller at barrel proof intensity is dense caramel, dark fruit, baking spice, one of the strongest pours in the wheated allocated tier, and secondary has it holding a firmer floor than most of its Buffalo Trace Antique Collection siblings right now. You don't need to do anything else today except register. Takes 2 minutes, costs nothing, and if your number comes up, you're buying at $119.99 instead of chasing a 4-figure secondary price. So here's the one thing to take with you today. A rickhouse groundbreaking sounds like the least exciting kind of bourbon news there is. No bottle, no tasting notes, nothing to pour. But it's the most honest kind of signal the industry gives you, because nobody pours concrete for a story they don't believe. Heaven Hill just told you, in the most expensive way a company can tell you anything, that they expect people to still want their whiskey a decade from now. That's worth more than another press release about a limited release ever is. That's the cut. The full American whiskey industry brief is waiting at patreon.com/chasingtheunicorn podcast. I'm John Schuster. Thanks for joining me. Your unicorn is